On June 7, 2006, at precisely 6:15 p.m. local time, two 500-pound bombs dropped from the sky and obliterated a small house in Hib, Iraq. Inside that house was Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, the leader of al-Qaeda in Iraq and the most hunted man in the country. But his death wasn't the beginning. It was the end. The final act of a long pursuit that stretched across months, required thousands of man-hours, and brought together the sharpest blades in the special operations arsenal. Zarqawi wasn't a typical battlefield commander. He was a symbol, a ruthless ideologue with a taste for brutality that even al-Qaeda leadership in Pakistan viewed as extreme. His group, al-Qaeda in Iraq, was responsible for mass casualty bombings, hostage executions, and an orchestrated campaign to provoke sectarian civil war between Sunni and Shia Muslims. He wasn't hiding in caves. He was operating in Iraq's cities and villages, surrounded by a tight ring of loyalists. He moved constantly. He trusted few. He left no digital trace. That made him incredibly dangerous and incredibly hard to find. To find him, the U.S. built a hammer, Task Force 145. It was a hybrid of the military's most elite special operations units and national intelligence assets. It wasn't just firepower, it was a complete kill chain. At its core, Delta Force handled direct action raids, clearing buildings and neutralizing targets. SEAL Team 6 rotated in for capture-kill missions. CIA Ground Branch worked the human intelligence side, recruiting sources and debriefing captives. NSA tracked cell phones and signal patterns. DIA and JSOC analysts built target packages and mapped networks. 160th SOAR, Night Stalkers, flew helicopters at low altitude under cover of darkness. British SAS added surveillance and urban reconnaissance capability. Every part had a role, and every night, TF-145 went hunting. Dozens of raids, hundreds of interrogations, thousands of files and fragments. Most didn't lead directly to Zarqawi, but they built the picture. By early 2006, analysts noticed a pattern. A low-usage phone number kept showing up near Zarqawi's inner circle. It never stayed on long, but each time it was activated, it appeared within range of past Zarqawi sightings. NSA teams began mapping that phone's signals. After weeks of careful triangulation, it consistently pinged near Baqaba, northeast of Baghdad. The focus narrowed to a village on the edge of farmland. Hib. Now came the next step: persistent surveillance. MQ-1 Predator drones circled silently over the area, watching a small walled compound. Men came and went. No women, no children. Vehicle traffic was minimal, controlled. Visitors stayed briefly. Everything about it said high-value target. Then came the human intelligence. Two captured AQI members were interrogated by CIA officers embedded with JSOC. They both pointed to Hib. One described a safe house that matched the compound on the drone feed. The intelligence picture clicked into place. June 7, 2006, just after 6 p.m. Surveillance showed a group entering the compound. One individual was tall, stocky, and moved like someone with authority. A known Zarqawi-linked phone number lit up inside the house. At Balad Air Base, the Joint Operations Center initiated final targeting procedures. JSOC's intelligence officers confirmed 3 sources: drone feed, SIGINT, and human. It was as good a match as they'd ever had. Lieutenant General Stanley McChrystal approved the strike. 2 F-16Cs were already in the air, flying over central Iraq. Each was loaded with a GBU-12 Pavway-2, a 500-pound laser-guided bomb. Final coordinates were uploaded. The Predator lazed the target. At 6:15 p.m., both bombs hit. One struck the center of the house, the second followed milliseconds later, collapsing the remaining structure. In under 5 seconds, the safe house was gone. Minutes later, 2 MH-60L Black Hawks lifted from a forward staging area. Inside were Delta Force operators, medics, an intelligence team, and an Air Force combat controller. They landed in a field near the blast zone and moved in. The compound was smoking rubble, no gunfire, no resistance. Inside the debris, the team located several bodies. One man was still alive, badly wounded, semi-conscious. He was pulled out and stabilized temporarily, but he died moments later from internal trauma. His face, however, was mostly intact. On-site biometric scanners were deployed. Delta's intel officer took fingerprints. A mobile database was pinged via satellite. The match came back quickly. Zarqawi. Facial recognition confirmed it. DNA would follow later, but the body, the location, and the intelligence all aligned. The world's most wanted terrorist was dead. Back at Balad, the mood was focused, not celebratory. This was a mission accomplished, but not a war won. Photos were taken, reports compiled. The kill was confirmed to higher command and eventually the public. For Task Force 145, it was the culmination of a long, grinding campaign. For the wider war effort, it was a powerful message. No one is untouchable, but there was still more to come. Because Zarqawi's death was a turning point and a test. Zarqawi was dead. The most hunted man in Iraq, eliminated by precision air power and boots-on-ground confirmation. The raid was a textbook example of joint targeting success, from intelligence fusion to kinetic execution. But killing a man is not the same as killing a movement. Within hours of the strike, U.S. commanders acknowledged the success. News broke in Washington, the president addressed the nation. But for Task Force 145, there was no pause. There was no victory lap. The very same night, they were back in the field, because they knew what others would soon learn. The war wasn't over. It was evolving. Within hours of the airstrike in Hib, Task Force 145 launched follow-on operations to exploit momentum and disrupt AQI's command structure. The intelligence gathered from Zarqawi's safe house phones, maps, handwritten notes pointed to two new targets. The first was a known meeting site in the Diyala province. Delta Force operators inserted under cover of darkness, cleared the structure, and killed 4 mid-level AQI commanders. No prisoners, no resistance. Clean execution. The second site was a logistics hub closer to Baghdad. SEAL Team 6, working in tandem with Iraqi Special Police, raided the location and recovered encrypted laptops, bomb-making materials, and documents outlining routes used by foreign fighters crossing from Syria. This was standard doctrine: strike the head, then dismantle the limbs. U.S. forces released high-resolution images of Zarqawi's face post-mortem but intact. This wasn't just for proof. It was psychological warfare. Zarqawi had cultivated a mythical status. His videos were dark and dramatic, his voice calm and threatening. He was the faceless architect of chaos until now. By showing the world his death, the coalition aimed to shatter that myth, to demoralize his followers and show Iraqis that the most feared man in the country was gone. But al-Qaeda had planned for this. Just 18 days after Zarqawi's death, al-Qaeda in Iraq announced a new leader, Abu Ayyub al-Masri, an Egyptian-born jihadist and longtime associate of al-Qaeda Central. Where Zarqawi was brutal and charismatic, al-Masri was quiet and methodical. He wasn't interested in flashy videos. His specialty was logistics, coordination, and building deep insurgent networks, the kind that survive when leadership is targeted. Under his watch, al-Qaeda in Iraq changed shape. Zarqawi thrived on high-visibility attacks, car bombs in markets, kidnappings of journalists, executions on tape. But after his death, the group shifted focus. They moved into IED networks, assassination squads, and covert infiltration of Iraqi army and police. They built systems instead of spectacles. They stopped broadcasting and started embedding. By 2007, their structure had become more decentralized but harder to kill. With foreign fighters still flowing in, AQI morphed into something more dangerous: the Islamic State of Iraq, a rebranded insurgency with long-term goals. Zarqawi was dead, but the system he created had adapted. JSOC didn't stand still. With the momentum of Zarqawi's death, Task Force 145 was renamed Task Force 88 and surged its operational tempo. Intel cycles shortened. Raids became more frequent. The concept was now fully in motion. Find, fix, finish, exploit, analyze, repeat. Operators from Delta Force, SEAL Team 6, and ISA conducted missions every single night. They used intelligence gathered from one raid to launch the next, sometimes within hours. ISR aircraft like Predators and Reapers provided real-time video. Human intelligence teams built local networks. SIGINT teams intercepted low-level chatter. And special operations units hit targets before the enemy could relocate. This tempo would later become the gold standard for manhunting operations worldwide. Around the same time, the broader surge strategy was launched across Iraq, an increase of 20,000 U.S. troops to stabilize key areas like Baghdad and Anbar province. While conventional forces secured cities and trained Iraqi units, JSOC handled the shadow war. Their job? Remove leadership and pressure the insurgency from the top down. The coordination between conventional and special operations forces, which had been rocky in earlier years, now became seamless. Commanders shared targeting data. Intel flowed both ways, and it worked. By late 2007, violence in Iraq had dropped significantly. AQI was fractured, scattered, and on the defensive, but it wasn't over. Zarqawi's death proved something critical. You don't need to fight large-scale battles to destroy an enemy. If you can track their leaders, understand their networks, and strike precisely, you can cripple an entire organization with minimal footprint. This became the model for future operations, from Pakistan to Yemen to Syria. You start with surveillance, layer in signal intelligence, build a pattern of life, then wait and strike at the right moment. It requires patience, coordination, and surgical execution, and that's what JSOC delivered. Zarqawi's death removed a brutal figure from the battlefield. It showed what modern joint force warfare could do, but it also revealed the limits of kinetic success. Killing a man is easy. Killing an idea is harder. Zarqawi's ideology, sectarian hatred, hyper-violence, religious justification for mass killing, would outlive him. The group he founded would later evolve into ISIS, the most brutal terrorist army the world had seen in decades. Some of the same routes, same safe houses, same towns, all used again years later by a new wave of extremists, many of them inspired by Zarqawi's legacy. The strike in Hib was more than just a successful mission. It was a case study in how intelligence, technology, and special operations can converge with perfect timing. It didn't end the war, but it changed how the war was fought. The death of Zarqawi was a tactical success, a strategic signal, and a moral statement that even the most feared enemies can be found. His house was reduced to rubble, his body buried in secrecy, his name recorded in history. But the fight and the methods continued. This was the death of Zarqawi, but the war went on in the shadows. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment so you don't miss out.